Hello, Redlow friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Hello Redlow podcast. I'm your host, Terry Mullen, and I am so happy you're here. If you're new here, welcome. Redlow is older spelled backwards. I am older, and perhaps you are too. And I show up here each week trying to help each one of us step forward with our lives by navigating these life transitions, overcoming hard things, and rediscovering who we are now in this season of life. I have a great episode today, so sit back, listen in, and let's keep stepping forward. You are only one decision away from a different life. That's a quote from Anonymous, and it's actually one of my favorite quotes. Just pause and think about that for a moment and what it means. I want to thank you for being here today because I'm going to dive into stepping beyond our fears and finding our courage to do things that we've always wanted to do. And a lot of it is based on our decisions that we make, right? Whether we make them or we're paralyzed by them or we don't take action or we jump all in and finally do something. So I really believe that there's a direct correlation and connection between fear and decisions. Fear is a huge roadblock in all of our lives, and I definitely want to address it. In my book, I have a quote that says, "To reach your greatest potential, you'll have to fight your greatest fears." And for me personally, I have found this to be so true. If you're not familiar with my book, Step Forward, I use metaphors. I actually choose shoes as metaphors to explain the different things that I had to step into in order to step forward with my life. And one of those shoes I talk about, those shoes I had to step into, are the battle boots. I actually talk about 8 different things that I battled in my life, those 8 different things I had to overcome, those things that were holding me back. And they are the things that I could no longer go around, go under, go over, or run from. I had to stop running and start wading through all the muck, the rubble of this fear and all these different things I was dealing with, those limiting beliefs, in order to step forward with my life. And as I've shared, fear was definitely one of them. With those 8 things that I battled and that I talk about, fear is actually the largest section on this. I found that fear is both real and imagined. It shows up in all of our lives, no matter where we are in our journey. It definitely has a purpose. It's kind of like an alarm clock that goes off in our bodies and it warns us, like we have these blaring sirens that are telling us there's something wrong. And we can either use it as motivation to step forward with our life, or we can use it as resistance to prevent us from actually taking action. And our bodies will respond either with that fight or flight, or what I say freeze response, kind of like that deer in headlights, right? So, what is fear to you? For me, it's always been this big, ugly green monster in my mind. It has appeared ominous and frightening, and it's actually made me believe that I actually have something to be afraid of. But really, most often, fear is just what we know from that acronym, FEAR, false evidence appearing real. And that fear can keep you playing small. It can keep you from speaking your truth. It can keep you from stepping forward with your life and really fulfilling your true purpose and pursuing those things that you really want to do. So fear can be really powerful, can't it, if we allow it? Here's the downside about fear. Fear creates a lot of anxiety, anticipation, angst, apprehension, doubt, despair, depression, overwhelm, and so much more. I think fear is kind of complicated because we have this built-in survival mode that we have had from the very beginning of time. And when we're afraid, like I shared earlier, we have this fight or flight response. When you are afraid, your body actually responds. Your hands start to sweat, your heart starts to race. You're in this high-driven anxiety mode, and often it can cause you to freeze. And guess what? Your brain actually does kind of freeze. It becomes overloaded, and it's trying to survive. It's trying to keep you safe. And if you're in the middle of a situation, you often can't think clearly because your brain is trying to protect you. It wants to focus on one thing, getting you to safety. So all systems shut down to keep you safe and get you where you need to be. Does that make sense? Do you think this would be a good time to make a decision? Absolutely not. Yet how many of us do? How many of us make decisions when we're afraid? Guilty. So what do we do when we're afraid and these alarms are going off in our body and we're shutting down and we can't think straight? Well, there's a couple things you can do. You can either run or you can stay and freeze. You can have inaction. You can have analysis paralysis. You can procrastinate, right? So fear is pretty smart. It often causes us to freeze, to stay stuck and not pursue those things that we really want to do or those things that we know we need to do. Now, we all have fears, right? Whether real or imagined. For me, I have had a very real fear of snakes. For years, I was completely terrified of them, and I share this in my book. When I was younger, my brother used to capture garden snakes and put them in jars and chase me with them, and all that did was feed into my fear even more. We grew up with rattlesnakes, and so I always had to be careful, especially in the summertime or in spring, and I absolutely hated them. So for years, I used to have really bad dreams, and one night, several years ago, yes, well into my adulthood and my midlife, I had a dream that I actually killed a snake. I had this whole Terminator experience and feeling, kind of like this superhero experience, maybe a little Wonder Woman. It was so vivid and powerful that I still remember that feeling to this day. And the crazy thing is, I woke up that next day and all of a sudden had this peace and clarity, like, oh, the clouds had parted. It had such an impact on me that I got up and Googled it the next morning. And I asked Google, as we all do, what the symbolism of killing a snake was. And I learned some really interesting things. It's actually quite powerful. Dreams have meanings. And I learned that when you kill a snake, it actually is representation of a willingness to confront or meet a challenge that's coming to you. It means you have a strong character and there's favor. It means that there's healing and transformation and knowledge coming to you. It's renewed energy and positive changes are coming your way. I saw it and thought, wow, now that's powerful. That's amazing. It was kind of a significant moment in my life. And the craziest thing yet about it all, I've not had one dream about snakes since that day. Gives me chills and makes me super emotional. I don't know why. But from that moment on, I realized I'm okay. I realized I'm smart, I'm capable, I'm qualified. I don't have to be afraid. I don't have to play small. I can let go of all of those limiting beliefs. I can write my book. I can start my podcast. I can help others. I can make my struggles, my mess, a message for others. And I don't need a degree to prove I'm worthy. I am worthy, and so are you. I made a decision that day. I made a decision that now I'm in the second season of my life, and I don't want to live my life with any regrets. I decided that I'm going to pursue my dreams. I'm not going to leave any rock unturned. I'm going to leave a legacy for my children. I'm going to show them what's possible at any age, and I'm not going to be limited. And so I have. Maybe you're a bit like me. Maybe you have goals and dreams too, but you're stuck. You've put your dreams up on a shelf like I did. You put them in a pretty little box, you placed it on that shelf, you turned the key, and you locked it up. You let it sit there until you raised your kids, until you were done helping others, until you saved enough money, until you moved, until whatever. And then one day you realize that time has passed. Time is passing you by. You're unhappy. You're not fulfilled. You're still young enough to pursue your dreams. And so you ask yourself, what's next? What's next for me? And yet you're afraid. And I understand those feelings. So maybe today's the day. Maybe it's the day that you decide to jump and go all in. Maybe it's time you start to take care of you. Dale Carnegie says that inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer the fear, don't sit at home. Don't just sit and think about it. Go out and get busy. Isn't that powerful? Action precedes clarity. It doesn't work the other way around. Clarity does not come before action. You must take action first, even when it's hard and even when it's super scary. And here's a slight caveat. Fear is always here. We were created to have it. Think back to the caveman days. It was survival. We're hardwired for it. So we need to view it as our friend, not our foe. And here's something to think about. First of all, fear has disguises. It's super creative. And with each step that you take towards growth, Fear comes at you. I say it wants to devour you. It wants to keep you stuck. It wants to keep you immobile. And it wants to keep you from moving forward and making those changes in your life. Oh, and maybe this is where that big ugly monster appears, at least for me, and that false evidence appearing real, like monsters that we imagined as a kid under our bed or somewhere in our closets, right? So this is where fear gets really creative, and it wears masks. It looks like indecision, anger, procrastination, or lack of motivation. It can look like sarcasm, boredom, being overly responsible, victimhood, doubt, fatigue, and my very favorite, perfectionism. As a recovering perfectionist, gosh, how many times do I struggle with this? How many times do I sit here behind this microphone and re-record or repost on social media or whatever? Yep, I'm constantly working on this. And with each new level, each new step I take towards my own goals and dreams, and those challenges rise up. It's a whole new level. And as we step forward and help others, we also work on ourselves. But the awareness is there. It's that constant peeling back of that onion and peeling back those layers and getting to the core of who we are. So how do we use fear to our advantage? Because we can use fear as fuel. We can step forward. And how then do we step into those courageous cowboy boots that I talk about in my book? How do we take that action to pursue our dreams, to write that book, to start that podcast, to coach, to go live on Facebook? Well, here's what you do. Number one, you identify that fear is real. And then you ask yourself, is it true? Is it really true? Because 91% of our worries and our fears are false alarms. Crazy, right? Just ponder that. 91%. That means that 9% of these things actually ever come to fruition. They're actually even real situations. So number two, accept it. Accept this fear and admit that you have it. Number three, feel it. Don't run from it. God, I've spent a lifetime running from my fears, and I've suppressed it because eventually that fear catches you. So be mindful when you start to sweat, your palms are sweaty, your heart is racing, your mind goes fuzzy, and you can't think straight. Do what Mel Robbins says. She says to do that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 action. Yes, that helps. It interrupts your mind. I also have a mantra that I say to myself. My acronym is STEP, S-T-E-P. I say, I am strong, I'm tenacious, I'm empowered. God has a plan and purpose for my life. I got this. I repeat that to myself several times a day because I have these fears. I have things I have to step over so that I can help you, so that I can sit here behind this microphone, so that I can go live, so that I can coach people. I struggle too. Number 4, face your fear. Lean into it. You can't go around it. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You can't medicate it. You can't drink it away. You can't shop it away. Does that make sense? Number 5, know your why. Why do you want to do what you really want to do? What is the driving force behind it? Is it your family? Is it the freedom that you want? Is it financial freedom? Is it to be in charge of your life and your schedule? Do what you want, with who you want, when you want. Sounds amazing, right? Number 6, focus on growth. Surround yourself with people who will lift you up, people in this space. Find a coach, because a coach will help you stop playing small and encourage you to be your best, to discover the best parts of yourself. And I'm happy to help you. Go take a course. Join a community like my private Facebook group, Hello Redlow Women. Be empowered and encouraged by others who are walking this path as well. I have truly seen the power of this in my own life. We cannot do this alone, friends. And God knows I've spent a lifetime trying to do it alone. I was always the happy one. I was always the bridge helping everybody else. And I forgot to help myself. And one day, I couldn't do it anymore. I had to stop hiding behind everyone else and let my light shine. And that's why I'm here doing what I'm doing. I want to see you step forward, step into those resilient rain boots. Get up off the floor and let that fear bounce off of you. And step into those radiant ruby slippers and let your light shine. You have the courage. You have a brain in your head. And you have an empathetic heart. Remember, you have always had the power, my dear. Just as Linda said, you just had to learn it for yourself. And finally, I want you to practice courage. By doing those hard and scary things allows you to have the confidence you need to do the next hard and scary thing, and that becomes the progress forward. So put on those courageous cowboy boots, pull them off the shelf, and step into them today. It's time to show up in your life. It's time to do it messy, it's time to do it scared, it's time to do it imperfectly, and it's time to do it anyway. I do things messy so much now that the pendulum has swung to the other side. I literally just jump all in, and I think sometimes to myself, oh my gosh, what did I just do? Yesterday, I just did my first live Facebook. Haven't done that before, and it was okay. I mean, I did fine, but it was a little bit messier than I would like to have been, and I so wanted to take it down. But you know what? I decided not to, because I want to lead by example. I want to show you what's possible. No more dabbling. You got to just dive in. Go all in. Because if you don't, you never will. If not now, when? And if not you, then who? Know that you are seen, you are heard, you are loved, and you belong. Let's step forward. Let's dive in. Let's go all in. Have an amazing day. Thank you for being here. Until we meet again, let's keep stepping forward. God bless. Hey friends, thanks so much for listening in today. Just as a disclaimer, as I always like to say, I'm not a therapist or a professional. These are just my words and my experience from my own life and words from things that I've written in my book, Step Forward. Go have an amazing day, and thanks for stopping by.